Hey everybody! It's Wednesday, and it didn't snow that much today. I hope we're so. Thanks for everybody who got here. Got here. I hope you're hope you got here okay. Hope you're getting back okay too. Looks like the weather held out for us pretty well. And yeah, thanks for people for joining us remotely, folks. This will be fun tonight. So the main thing we're doing tonight is our third and final pair programming activity. Um, It'll be a mix of people who are here in the classroom and who are remote. Um, and hey, if you're here, if you really want to like experience remote pairing, if you want to join one of the Zoom breakout rooms, that's cool too. But also, it's great to be here. I brought all of all four of my HDMI cables. If you want to use the projector, since there aren't as many people, go for it. It might just give you some more screen real estate to work on your Kata. I also want to introduce Project 4 tonight, which is the XML project. But let's start out with Prime Minister's questions. I know we just talked on Monday, but I saw some more good questions about Project 2 on Slack, and I hope everybody has made some more progress on it. Again, I extended the due date until Friday at 5 to give everybody some time to integrate what they learned or integrate the feedback that they got on Project 1. Saw a bunch of resubmittals there. Thanks, I've got them all queued up. The grader was kind of busy today and yesterday, but they said they'd be able to get to them as soon as possible. So they're really good about letting me know when they're done, and then I will pass those on to you. But what can I tell you? What's on your mind? Anything that you want to talk about here? Yeah. Frantic mode project. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. The lowest quiz grade is dropped. That'll be your lowest quiz grade. Where I am, me, and I was hoping it up until midnight is cool. So I just yeah. Well, it won't. Remember, the lowest quiz grade is dropped. But hey, if you flake it or whatever, it's cool. Just once, or yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah. No, that's all right. No need to apologize. Yeah, just like, yeah, right. 10 points from Gryffindor. Yeah, whatever. Okay. But the millennials thought that was hilarious, by the way. Anyway, I'm like, are you guys? I don't know. Okay. Okay. Okay, this is the thing where it's like I'm of the age where it's like that's a kid's book, and so like I don't really, it's like I saw the movies and stuff anyway. Uh, yeah, it like became uncool, like once you like. Okay, yeah, yeah, I know, right? It's like, yeah, the artist, it's so tough, right? And it's like, yeah, it's it's cool. It's all right. It's all right. Appreciate the art and but acknowledge, yeah, the artist and their legacy. Anyway, yeah, other questions? Yeah, yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm not terribly good about updating Canvas because yeah. So yep. Yeah, and well, this is why always check Slack. That's where I put stuff. I know a lot of stuff goes by. It can be tough, but yeah. Sorry if anybody then sort of that wasn't on their radar and then had to hurry to get it in. If you're not feeling good about it or you want to put some more polish on it, feel free to do so. How's everybody feel about Project Two? How's Project Two comparing to Project One? Is it feeling a little different with Project Two? Are there things that are maybe a little more challenging? A little more... Right. Yeah, you're using the API for the first time, really. It's not just like strings and string buffers and regular expressions and stuff. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And so like the thing in the slides that's probably most relevant is all of the readers and the writers. And understanding the abstraction because I'm pretty sure like out of the box, like the text number takes a generic reader, which is on purpose, right? It's a very generic class, and actually for for project 3, that comes in very handy. But for but for now is understanding the relationship between like print writers and file writers and how all of that works. If you're finding that's a little awkward, or you're having to spend some time understanding it, that's the intent, right? This is the new concepts with Project 2, and where you ought to be putting your efforts. Hopefully, the rest of it is has come together pretty easily. And probably the other thing that you might, if you find yourself having to take another look at how you implemented command line parsing now that you have another option to support, that's another thing in this project, right? Is you need to figure out, okay, how can I best approach my command line parsing so that I can support additional options? And knowing that in Project 3 and we'll be seeing shortly in Project 4, there are just even more options that you'll need to support. Yeah. Yes. So the text file contains the contents of a single airline. So it'll have all the information you need about that, like the name of the airline and then all the information about the airline's flights. But yes, as flights are added to the airline via the command line, the new flight information is added to the file. One airline, right. And the way that's enforced is that if the airline in the file is different from the airline on the command line, it's an error, right? And so you're never going to be able to create an airline file with multiple airline information. Nice. Yeah.
Can we just assume you're going to feed us perfect airline file?
Oh, excellent question. No, you cannot assume that like the input's going to be great. And so then, part of one of the criteria for assessment is what your program does when it gets bogus information or just in general malform stuff.
Or actually, my question was, we just toss out.
Yes, yeah. So really, if you encounter any error while parsing, it's not like don't try to support recovering from it, or like best guess I'll assume it's the current year if the year is missing. No, just say hey I can't deal with the file, and that's fine. Yeah.
And we don't have to be super specific with our errors, or we should still strive.
Yes. I'll say that, and I'll try to reinforce with the graders that with regards to error messages, like the command line, the command problems with the command line, like in Project 1, it's not going to get any more strict. So if you were fine on Project 1, then or if you got your Project 1 to a point where it was fine, keep it that way. And then in regards to some of the new functionality, like like for instance, the error message when the airline in the text file doesn't match the one in the command line, well, there I think you should be specific, right? Like that specific case. And then, but otherwise, no. I mean, don't worry about trying to list line numbers or be right. Hey, you could, and actually, if you go and find the right Java API, it's really easy to do that. But is that it might be some nice polish. I'm sure the graders would find that neat. But I wouldn't consider that a requirement. I would discourage them from considering a requirement also. Any other questions on Project 2 or anything else? Yeah.
I guess, so we don't exit.
Yes, please don't use system.exit because it messes up the integration test and messes up the unit tests.
Okay.
So I think normally you would for these projects you don't. A long time ago, I used to have a mechanism in the invoke main test case, the invoke main stuff, where it would capture the system.exit and reject it and stuff. But it turns out that's kind of a security hole where it's like, in a real application, if it was trying to exit, you want the VM to exit, and yet there was a way to use something called Security Manager to hijack that and then prevent it from exiting. And the folks, the people who are the stewards of the Java platform said that's not a good thing, and so they they got rid of it eventually, and so then I couldn't use it anymore. I was kind of bummed about because I was kind of neat because as part of the invoke main result, you can say, oh, what was the exit code? Well, you can't do that anymore, and so then as a result, there's no way to validate the exit code, and if or no way to trap the exit code. And so since we can't trap it anymore, just the JVM exits, and then that none of your, and then like the integration test VM will exit, so then all of them will run. So bottom line, no, you can use exit.
Okay, so if we were designing an application on the left, we probably would.
Yes, I mean I think a real world command line application ought to use the exit code for the command line tool to convey important information back to the user about the exit state of the program.
And then, is there a way to check if
Is there a way to check to see if a function calls another function? At what point in the life cycle do you want to do that? Or like at compile time or? Oh, sure. Yes, there is. We will learn about one of the things you can do with mocking, which we'll learn about next week, is you'll be able to design your code in such a way that yes, you can validate that when I called this function, oh, this other function is also called through managing dependent objects and stuff. Yeah, we'll see that. We'll see that next week. Next week, I guess. We'll get to it next week. Yeah, we might. Yeah, we might get to that next week as we start going through the project 5, the web application. Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. So yeah, I mean, several people have noticed that hey, I wrote a unit test or I wrote a integration test, and the integration test failed with a message saying, hey, main shouldn't throw exceptions. If you remember back to the assignment for project 1, like one of the one of the requirements, one of the things I said is that hey, listen, your main method shouldn't throw exceptions. Users shouldn't see stack traces, right? They're not going to understand that. It's like when we all know when we see like the 404 page, the 500 page, now what that means and stuff, but no one else does, right? And they shouldn't, right? That's not helpful. That does nothing but make your application look bad. Same thing with a stack trace. Now, on a log file, that's one thing, but it's sort of like the user shouldn't. So then, I've had this requirement forever, and I had, there's one year where I think I just sort of had a bumper crop of people whose programs would throw null pointer exceptions or radius out bounds exceptions or number format exceptions and stuff. It's like I want to give them an earlier heads up, not wait until I grade their project and have to tell them I want to give them an earlier heads up. This is a bad thing. So I changed the invoke main test case framework to issue that specific error, saying, listen, great, hey, you have an invalid invalid airport code on your command line. It should not throw an illegal argument exception, instead pronounce line to standard error. So that's what that's there for. Yeah, to give you an early heads up. Yeah.
Our text files are the format of our design, and essentially a valid text file will be built into the main program.
Oh, very, very good question. So yeah, right, because it's like, oh yeah, hey, how are we going to create the bogus stuff? Sure, I'll give away this answer. First of all, yeah, I'm just going to send it to some random crap. Okay, right, and then also, yes, I will take a text file created by a previous run of your program and change it in a way that I would expect to make it invalid for your text format. So. Nice. These are great questions. Good question. Okay. Right. So the question was, when I use the print option, does it print out the entire contents of the airline? No. Print has exactly the same semantics as it did in Project 1, meaning that it just prints the newly added flight. In Project 3, when you do the pretty print, well, that's when you print the entire airline. Yes, in Project 3, Pretty Print is another option with its own semantics, and there's also a different implementation of Airline Dumper that formats it in a pretty format as opposed to the machine readable text dumper. Yeah, yeah, great. I'm glad you're asking these questions, right? These questions demonstrate to me that you're thinking critically about the assignment, and that you're understanding some of the implications and maybe the nuances of the requirements and what could go right and what could go wrong. Excellent. Yeah. So that's project two, due on Friday. And I just want to remind everybody about project three, which is, yeah, let's do a week from tonight. Although experience has been that project three is comparatively straightforward after project two. Again, project three is there. A couple of things that are different. Yes, you get the pretty print, the pretty option, which it uses a pretty printer that you write to do text formatting. I think the other big thing that changes is the format of the dates and format of the times on the command line. So that's another headline change. Otherwise, experience has shown that after project two, project three is comparatively straightforward. So, don't freak out if this weekend when you break ground on it. I recommend that you read over the or watch the lectures about not Java I/O, but oops, where did I? Oh yeah, there we go. On yeah, the lecture on the collections API to learn about sorting, and of course working with dates and times to learn about text formatting and things like that. Okay, well, and I think that brings us to project four. What I hear at the beginning. Okay. Oh, huh. Okay. So right now you're working on uh, persisting the contents of an airline to a text file in a format of your choosing. This gives you good experience working with Java's I/O APIs. But each one of you will have your own text format. And yeah, this can be appropriate if you're not really sharing data, but if you want to share data with people, you need to have a standard text format. And Project 4, it's really the goal of Project 4, is to have everybody using the same format and to use XML to persist the contents of your airline. You've seen XML before, and like the pom.xml. I think you've gotten a feeling for sort of what it is. It's not a terribly difficult concept to understand. You have all these tags, and you have attributes of the tags and stuff to describe content. And if you've ever done any raw HTML, it's very similar. XML, because it is a standard format, there are standard APIs for working with it. And we're going to use an API called the DOM API. Now, admittedly, and I talk about this in the lecture, this is a super old and kind of clunky API in places. And that I think is appropriate for this assignment. That's one of the things I want you to experience is like, oh my gosh, what's it like to work with an old and clunky API? So, I mean, it's all explained in the lecture. I don't think there's anything terribly tricky there. But if you're like, oh, there's got to be a better way to do this, there is. But it requires some third-party libraries and things like that. Nice thing about DOM is that it's built into the Java runtime, and so it's all right there. There are some new classes that I'd like you to add. So you're going to be creating a new kind of airline dumper, a new kind of airline parser. There's something called an XML dumper, which will dump the representation of an airline, not to a text file, like a text dumper did, or to a pretty format, like a pretty printer did. This time, it dumps it to an XML file that conforms to the document type definition, something called a DTD. Oh, Yeah, actually, this statement might not be true anymore about the XML file referencing the URL, which actually I don't list above anymore. Sorry, I think I should take that out. Yeah, I made that change this last time. So it uses something called a public ID instead of the system ID. We'll see an example of it. Note that for this project, you can just continue to iterate on your project 3. You don't need to create a new Maven project. For the web project, project 5, we'll be creating a new one. We'll talk all about that next week. So the XML dumper dumps an airline as XML, and XML parser creates an airline from an XML file, or really just some XML source. And so the whole idea is that you use this DOM API to represent your XML. And so you take the XML, convert it to this object hierarchy, and then from that you walk the object tree to populate your airline with its flights. So in this project, there are two main classes. There is a class called a converter, and then there's a project for. So what the converter class does is it takes your text file and converts it to an XML file. And actually, this should be really straightforward. So this is like, 5 or 10 lines of code. You just got to figure out the right 5 or 10 lines of code to do it. But you can leverage all the classes that you have, your XML parser, and XML dumper, and your text dumper, your text parser, and stuff like that, to put them all together to create this, a converter class that has a main method that takes in a text file, an XML file, just the two arguments, and will read in the text file and write out the XML file with the same airline information in it. There's also a project 4 main class that has all the functionality of the previous project. So, create an airline with a text file, pretty print it, dash print, all that kind of stuff. And the arguments are the same as in project 3. Note that, just like in project 3, the departure date and time is AM, PM, so it's 12-hour time, not 24-hour time. But now there is a new argument called -XML file, which specifies where you should read and write the airline info to and from, but as XML instead of text. Oh, and note that is an error to specify both -text file and -XML file. They're mutually exclusive. As always, there's some error handling that you should handle gracefully. So for instance, if the span line is wrong or it's got too much. Also, if the XML file does not conform to the document type definition that we have for the airline, so basically if your airline is bogus. The nice thing here is that you don't need to write the parser for all of this. Instead, you can rely on the DOM API to parse the XML and then return you objects that represent that DOM. And then, just like in project 3, if the 3-letter code does not correspond to a known airport as provided by the airport names class, it's an error. So, as I was saying at the beginning, the APIs for XML that we learned about in this course are kind of dated, almost antiquated, but that's on purpose. And there are newer APIs like Jaxby, which is used for working with XML. And you can use annotations and stuff like that. If you want to try it out, you can use it. I don't think any student has gotten to work successfully because it's a pretty specific set of use cases, and they'll change a bunch of stuff. But yeah, if you want to, give it a try. But the important thing is that it must the XML must correspond, or must conform to the document type definition that defines the structure of the XML, and I don't think that's particularly easy to do with Jaxby. Anyway, I'm curious to hear if anyone tries that, if you feel like going above and beyond on the XML project. I know this might seem like it's kind of far off in the future, and you've got another project between here and then, but I wanted to introduce you now to give you an idea of where you're going next. Any immediate questions on this? Yes? Extra credit for Jaxby? I don't know. Someone else asked me about extra credits, and I'm like, I'll say, what was that? Yeah, right. I'll endorse you on LinkedIn for Jaxby. I don't know. Seriously, if you want to look into it, let me know how it goes. I don't know. Last time I looked into it, I'm like, I don't know, it's not very good thing, or yeah, go for it. Any other questions? Yeah. I don't know.
The longer you
Yeah.
work,
Yep.
is that just the
Yeah, it's whatever you use when you create your projects. This is the package name that you used, so it's that thing. Yep. Yeah, no, good question. Yeah, no, okay, yeah, actually, sorry. Note that here the command line is a little different. You're using the dash class path with there instead of the dash jar. Right, this is invoking the executable jar, and there can only be one main class in an executable jar. Here, there can only be, yeah, an executable jar only invokes one main method. Here you have a different class in the same jar file whose main method you want to invoke. So the format of the command line is a little bit different. You're invoking the Java virtual machine, and you're saying, oh, here's the class path to use, which happens to be the same jar as over here. But then you specify the name, fully qualified name of the class, as opposed to here where you don't specify the fully qualified name of the class because it's configured in the executable jar. That's a really good question. That's a new thing, I guess, for this project. Yeah.
You have your so you can actually get on
Yeah.
a lot of websites.
Oh, nice. Okay. Really? Did I miss it?
Do it use Jackson?
Yeah, just check it out. Yeah, you submit your just send me raw XML as a message. Uh, nice. No, I but
Everyone's just like kind of like that.
I'm happy. Come on, you guys could be my employer or something, right? It's like all right, hey, you never know. I've actually have I've I don't think I've ever worked. Well, no, that is not true, is it? Yeah. So many years ago now, I had a whole bunch of people from this one company take my class because they were like, "Oh, we're using Java. I want to learn Java and such on Java and stuff like that," and including the president of the company was and then brought a bunch of his engineers. And then I think he was like, I'm going to hire the professor. And then he made me an offer. I'm like, okay. Yeah, it's like, because I was, actually, it turned out it was like, my other job's like, this isn't going where I want to go. And so I joined them for a little while. That was interesting. So I guess I have worked for some of my former students. And I think about it, but I've also hired, a number of former students, and I've been doing this for so long. I just run into people randomly, in life. It's like, oh yeah, hey, okay, so my daughter just started at Lewis and Clark, and she's studying computer science. And one of there's only three people on the computer science faculty at Lewis and Clark. It's a very small college. But one of them took my class a million years ago. It's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. So it's a small town, small world. Yeah. So here you go. And if nothing else, please get good careers and stuff so you can pay my Social Security. So, yeah. Meanwhile, future generations will be watching this video. It's like, what's Social Security? Okay. This is due in a couple of weeks. And again, I think just like Project 3, once you understand the core concepts, you'll be able to get through it, pretty easily. I do want to show actually a couple of things now I think about it. Yeah, here in you probably came across these before and didn't really know what they were all about. So here in the airline project, when you look at what's created out of the box, there are some airline related things. So there's this airline XML helper class. This is okay. So it's not the system ID anymore; it's the public ID. So for instance, this is there's this Project XML helper class which gives you some capabilities actually, do I have an example of it here? XML airline helper. Yes. Okay. So here again, you probably if you watch the lecture, this might make sense. If you didn't watch the lecture, it's okay. But when you do, be sure to go back to this file because this helps you get started. So again, the XML, the DOM APIs are a little wonky in places, and so this will show you how to do things like parse an XML file. And so this uses APIs like the Document Builder Factory, and it uses this airline XML helper to get you started. So this is the whole idea is that what this test does is it makes sure that you can parse successfully this valid airline.xml file, which is located over here in resources, valid airline XML. So yeah, this is ultimately what the XML will look like. So at the root here you have an airline, and you've got that public ID, things like that. So make sure you can parse this. Similarly, you have an invalid XML, and the reason you know it's invalid is because, well, there's an element that's missing here, and luckily IntelliJ tells you this. And so then let's see here. Oh yeah, here we make sure that if you've got invalid XML that it throws a sax parse exception. You'll learn all about all these APIs in the lecture, but I think just the thing to tuck away in your head is that as you're starting to build your XML parser, use this class, understand what this code does, the document builder factory, and all that kind of good stuff. And you learn about error handlers and entity resolvers, that kind of good stuff. But I've tried to make it a little bit easier for you. Let me know if you think it actually makes it easier for you by having this airline XML helper. Cool. Okay. Anything else on project 4? Okay. Excellent. Well, so let's get back to our pairing. So this is our third and final pair programming activity. We're doing a new kata called lags. I believe that here in the kata repository, up here on the main, actually let me go to the main branch, make sure that everything is okay. I have, I've added a new set of projects for this kata. Oops. Let's see here. Where's lags? There's lags. Yep. And anyway, it's all starting out the same. Gosh, I did rename. Yep, I got lags. Yep. So the same setup that you've seen before. Oops. Oh, interesting. I need to refresh my Maven. Yep, there it is. Cool. All that there. So please, in your own checkouts, make sure that you can get the latest changes. Let's take a look at the kata. So this is, I think, a little bit more complex kata from last time. Each kata gets a little bit more interesting. Just so you have a more interesting problem to work on. So the whole idea here is that you're running a little aviation company that has one plane, and this is a very boutique service, and so they'll call you up and they're like, hey, I need to be at this place in this time, and here's how long it takes, and here's how much I'll pay. So they basically all bid on access to your plane. And so they all call you up at the beginning of the day, and you want to write some software that will come up with the optimal schedule to make you the most money based on what they bid. And so then the requests come in for as in the following. So let's see here. Let's see here. Right. So they're basically asking for like a flight that has a start time and an end time, just like numbers, right? So basically say, hey, I want to fly from time 0 to time 5, and I'll pay you 10. And then this person's like, well, I want to fly from 3 to 7, and I'll pay you 14, et cetera, et cetera. And basically, what you want to write the code to figure out, that the most optimal is to agree to flying this first one from 0 to 5 for $10, and then do this 6 to 9 for another $8. So ultimately, excuse me, what you'll want to output is a value of 18, meaning here's how much money that you'll make out of this. Any sort of questions about what the kata is like? Actually, let me post this in the in the chat for the Zoom, and I'll also do it in here. Let's see here, Kata for tonight. Well, let me see if I can find the Google Doc too from last week or from Monday. Oops. There's Monday. Here we go. That's the worksheet. Oh, I guess that would be last Wednesday when we had the last kata, wasn't it? Yep, here it is. Link address. Yeah, and so if you want to use the Google Doc again, doc for choosing groups, for choosing pair numbers. So, any questions about this kata before we get started? Yeah, so the costs are the rightmost column. So it's start time. So yeah, start time, travel duration, and price they paid. So it's start time, travel duration, price, start time, travel duration, price. Those are most optimal. Yep, yeah. So you want to find, for this example, for instance, it would be, AF 514 and BA 01.
How did they get 18?
Sorry, and yeah, 18 is the optimal. Cool? Okay. I'm just going to pause the recording here. What I'll do is, okay, hey, everybody, I'm really curious to hear how it went tonight. And in particular, I'd like to hear first from the people who are remote. So, I'd appreciate if someone from each room would just come off and talk a little bit about the experience of what it was like remote pairing. So, let's start with room one with Brendan, Farani, and Taniat. Anybody from room one has some observations they want to share about what it was like being part of a remote pair, or actually a remote trio in this case?
Yeah, hi. I'll share a little bit.
Thanks.
I really took for granted not having the whiteboard or a piece of paper that we could all look at at the same time. And I found myself more compelled to just keep coding regardless of the role.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's just my take on it.
No, awesome, great. Let's see here, Brendan texted, put it in the chat. It was good, a little hard to get used to at first, not being able to point at stuff on the screen. Yeah, right. It is a little different experience. Great.
I also enjoyed most beyond remote. Like there wasn't much noise like in your teacher's classroom, and we could focus on coding more and could discuss. Well, yep, it was better experience than the last two class.
Oh, okay, good. Excellent observation. Great. Hey, Dylan, I see your hands raised. Yeah, something you wanted to add?
Yeah, it definitely felt like even though yeah, there are definitely some benefits to having it in person. I felt like kind of being in my own environment, having things kind of in the way that I usually would have it. It's definitely more natural for me at least.
Awesome. Well, the beer fridge is right there, right? Just reach down and grab it. I don't know. Good. Jonah, anything to add about working in room 4 with Dylan?
It was just nice, honestly, being really quiet and us just hearing each other perfectly, and just sharing our screen too and seeing exactly what he was typing and what we were talking about. Seemed easier than being in person, honestly.
Good. Excellent observations. Room 2, Christian and Wesley. What did you think? What was your experience like, and how does it compare to being in person?
I feel like it went well, but I think if we had a little bit more time to plan, we would have a more functional one. Yeah, because I think we uh I think we decided that it could have been like a recursion kind of thing that I had to go through and try to find like a best path. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good online. It was nice being able to have like his screen during like the screen recording to like on one half of my laptop and then like being able to search stuff up on the left. It's kind of easier to do that instead of like bouncing from screen to screen.
Ah,
The
right.
only one weird issue was whenever we would switch, or like every other time we would switch screen sharing, I wouldn't be able to see his screen, so I'd have to like leave the breakout room, then rejoin. I mean, simple fix. So.
Yeah. It's kind of weird. Mysteries of Zoom. Cool. Awesome. Thanks. Want to start out with the remote folks? Folks here in the room. Actually, there were a lot more of you here in person tonight than I thought. Good. So, like, what was your experience? What was your experience like the third time now being in person? Yeah. Ah. Right, yeah, so more talking, less typing because it was more complex. Yeah, great observation. Yeah, anybody else have something they want to share or something that you thought was unique, different, or the same? Yeah. Ah, tooling. Yeah, learning about. Yeah, no, I really like that. That's one of the things that I really like working with other people too, is just to see them use their tools in their environment. Um, you know, I remember very early on in my career, uh, I was looking over the shoulder. I was working with a coworker that had probably like 25 years experience more than I did, because I had zero. At that point, and just watching him use a debugger, and this was like command line debugger back then, and watching him use the Unix command line and all these things, I'm like, oh my gosh, I like. No wonder this guy's so much faster than I am, right? He knows his tools and knows how to just go from here to here. And for me, that was one of those first indicators. Like, wow, if like my fingers can go as fast as my head, that's really fast. So good. I'm glad you're like get to see tips and tricks from other people. Yeah. 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 Right on. Yeah, yeah. Seen that Vim powered user. Still called VI. But yeah, VI. I don't need improved. I have 1970 style VI. Excellent. What else? Any other observations? Things to share? Yeah. Yeah, a good pair. So yeah, you complement each other, and then yeah, we're able to build something excellent. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah, right. Yeah, when they're because we had like an hour, not even, to do that, and so then yeah, I mean, that's all part of the activity. It's all part of the purpose to help you stay focused, but also realize what you're capable of doing in a short amount of time. I'm guessing that if you go back and look at like what you're able to do in this hour compared to that first hour, you see how far you've come. Okay. Well, awesome. So that is the final pairing activity. And so then the assessment for the pairing is the reflection on Canvas. So there is a quiz that you have to do. You have to answer a couple of questions like who you paired with, but most importantly, it's about what you observed and what you learned and what you think about pair programming. And so that is due next week. And let's see here. And then is that? I guess no, in not next week, but the week after that. Yep. So we, no coding together next week, but starting on the 17th, we'll be learning about mob programming. It'll be kind of the same pattern where the first time we'll do an operating theater exercise, and so then I'll be calling for volunteers to mob with me, so we can just see what it's like, and then you'll be working in your own mobs after that for 3 sessions. Yeah. What is the midterm survey? Oh, it's just asking you how things are going in the course. Yeah, it's a survey at midterm, so it's not really a midterm exam or anything like that. No, we don't have a midterm. This is why you ask questions, right? I know, right? Yeah, it's like, no. Yeah, right. That's right. The despair of coding, yes. Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, no. It's all good. It's all good. Yep. Awesome. Hey, thanks everybody. Hope everybody makes it home safe. Stay warm tonight, and I will see you on Monday. Yep, bye.
Thank you.